That's part of it. Liam?
Hello.
Can you hear it?
I can see you. Liam, can you see me or hear me?
I can see you and hear you, yes.
Liam?
Yes. Good?
Can you hear him? Put your thumbs up.
Oh, God, I did.
Are you muted?
No, I would have.
Is your microphone on?
Yeah.
Liam?
Can you hear me?
Liam, can you hear me?
I can.
Put your thumbs up.
Can you see me?
Yes.
I can see. Yeah, I think he's stuck. It's frozen. He's frozen. The network password and stuff like that.
Shoot, why did it end? Do you think maybe...
Keep doing it. Maybe it's on his end. Go. Can you call?
Let me try again. All right, Liam.
Can you
Try
hear me?
again. Okay. Do you hear me?
I do hear you.
If you can't.
Okay. Do you see me?
Yes.
Okay. Good. Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Good. All right. Let's do a sound check. Sound is good.
Yep.
Okay. Liam, let me just get a glass of water. I meant to
Okay.
do that before. Give me just a second. I'll be right with you.
Thank him very much.
Okay. All right. Where's your brother these days?
He's in Korea right now.
Know that anywhere in particular?
I think near Seoul.
Yeah, cool. Now I'm getting a lot of his updates. I'm very excited.
Yeah.
For him.
Thank you for doing this again.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet.
Alright, I just have 20 questions. It won't take very long. Thank you.
You ask me
Alright.
what you need to ask.
During the 9/11 attacks, what company were you working for?
A company called Bloomberg Financial Markets.
Okay, was it located in one of the World Trade Centers?
The company is headquartered at 499 Park Avenue in Midtown Manhattan. I was scheduled to speak at a conference that day on the 107th floor of World Trade Center 1.
Okay. That was my next question, was like which World Trade Center maybe. And then, so you had a meeting scheduled for that day, you said?
Yeah, let me put that into context. In this financial world, there are lots of professional associations. Those associations gather people, and they're in New York, London, all over the world for meetings that are frequent, for really to hear and to share best practices, what people do. It's really it's information sharing among professionals in the financial world. That conference, and usually there are anywhere from 100 to sometimes as many as 500 people that come to the conference. They're usually 1 or 2 days. And the featured speakers at these conferences are guys like me who are subject matter experts in something that the audience wants to. That particular day, this organization was called Waters Financial Conferences. They were a magazine of financial technology issues, but they were also a conference-producing organization that every month somewhere in the world gathered these professionals. On that fateful day, they had about 200 people up in that conference on the 107th floor. There were about 8 speakers for the day. I was one of those speakers that day, but my schedule was for the afternoon. Needless to say, the guys that were scheduled for 9:30 and 10:30 in the morning were there when the planes hit.
That's, do you know what, like, level the plane hit at? Maybe?
Yeah, hit in the 70s. So
70s?
what we knew is 3 of my colleagues at Bloomberg were already up at that conference.
Mm-hmm.
They were there to support my speech. my speech, I was talking about the integration of finance and technology in the world of 2001. So that was my topic, and I was putting into perspective how much information in finance has converged over time. 3 of my colleagues at Bloomberg, a couple weeks before the conference, had asked if they could be at the meeting to hear me speak and to support any of my efforts because many of our clients were in that audience. And so they had arrived at the building where there was setup and there was breakfast. I wasn't there yet, but those 3, one was age 22, the other 2 were 24 years old. They were in the building at the time. So since the planes hit in the 70s and they were up on 107, they never got out.
Were you like, where were you exactly when the plane hit? Were you still like at your house, or were you like on your way, maybe?
No, neither. I was actually speaking at another conference in a different part of New York, and I was at a 9 o'clock speaking slot at a place called the Empire Hotel in the Lincoln Center neighborhood of New York. As I was speaking, so I had 2 speeches that day. 9 o'clock at the Empire Hotel, 3 o'clock in the World Trade Center. At approximately 9:15, I was 15 minutes into my speech. Somebody came, and I had about 80 people in the audience. Somebody came into the room, asked me to stop my speech. They needed to turn on the television. There were rumors that a plane had clipped, we use that word, not hit, that a plane had clipped a piece of the World Trade Center. We, not knowing what it was, we just thought maybe a private plane hit it. What we didn't know is we all stopped, we walked out of the room, the TV was turned on, and we saw smoke bellowing out of the World Trade Center. That was our first news that something was going on. And when we saw it, then it actually brought to life the tragedy that unfolded that we were unaware of before because we were sitting in that room.
So next one. What was your first thought when you saw that the World Trade Centers had been hit?
The first thing that I thought about is, oh my God, 3 of my colleagues are there, and many of my friends and my industry colleagues were there. But it was such an abstraction. We at the time, we saw all the smoke coming out. We didn't know what to make of it. We were just standing there stunned. Because at first, when somebody told us that the World Trade Center had been hit, we just thought it was not a big deal. But when we saw the extent of the smoke and the fire, it took us by such a surprise. We're like, oh my God, this is a war zone. So I think the main thing, Liam, one, it didn't fit our expectation when we were alerted that there was an event. And then second, it was an order of magnitude beyond anything we could have conceived. And then third, we were conscious that so many of our clients were they have space in the building. I was very conscious that, oh my God, I needed to be there at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. In fact, I was going to leave there after this speech, which is over at 10 o'clock. So I had planned on being down there by 10:30. So I didn't know exactly what to think. And I was like, oh my God. Now, the most important thing, at least to me, is my wife. I had told her the night before that I had a speech in the World Trade Center on the 107th floor. And I said, oh my God, I better call my wife. She didn't know that I was at this other place because I didn't mention it to her. I mentioned her, I was coming from the World Trade Center. So my first inclination is, oh my God, my wife probably thinks I'm in the building. I get my cell phone. I better call her. The cell phones were out. I was like, oh my God, I can't communicate to my family. And everyone else was just standing around, we just couldn't believe what we were seeing. So it took a while for us to and I think everybody, to figure out what was going on. And I didn't know what to do at the time, since we didn't have any communication device. We were making it up as we went along. And since the cell phones were out, there was no method of communication. So I walked back to my office Now, I will say, in Bloomberg, there is a mechanism that allows you to input where you are that day. I had noted, and everybody in the company can see it, I had noted in there that I was giving a speech at the Waters event at the World Trade Center. People, many knew that I was giving that speech. They immediately pulled up that Chuck Garcia is World Trade Center in the afternoon. My whereabouts were assumed World Trade Center. The reality is it was unknown. Since I didn't have a communication device, they didn't know. I walked from that other conference to the office and people thought they were seeing a ghost. I said, oh my God, we thought you were dead. So there was a list that the CEO was keeping of all the people that were unaccounted for. There were 4 people that were unaccounted for. I was one of them. The other 3, they were all in the 107th floor of the World Trade Center. One of them managed to get a text out to a colleague in Bloomberg. We are trapped. We don't know anything. Stand by. They were never heard from again. So let me stop there. All of that chronology makes sense. So when I came back to the office, and this is where the real tough part came. It was, by now, we had, at the time I made it back to the office, both of the World Trade Centers had collapsed. What we didn't know, we assumed that our 3 Bloomberg employees, who were now the only people that were unaccounted for, we assumed they were dead until proven otherwise, but this was such an abstract event. We didn't know. The buildings fell and we knew they were there. My CEO said, someone has to call the parents of each of these 3 gentlemen and tell them what happened. And it was my responsibility. Liam, I can tell you this, over my 30-year career on Wall Street, the hardest phone calls I ever made in my life were to the parents of these 3 fine young men. So I think part of the events, at least from my point of view, is this was something I was never trained for. It was something unexpected. How do you pick up a phone to tell a mom and a dad that their very bright, young, ambitious, and upwardly mobile son was at the 107th floor of the World Trade Center and don't know their fate? And I think from my point of view that this event, those are 3 phone calls that I will never forget because there's no precedent for it. I didn't know exactly what to say. They couldn't believe their ears. Like, did you see my son? No. Did you speak to them? No. Did anybody see them? No. Do you even know they're alive? No. I'm calling you as a courtesy because they were there in the service of my speech. We don't know what their fate is. We don't know anything more than what you know watching the television. I am calling you to inform you that it is my responsibility. They were there because they were to help me and my organization, and I am really sorry for this. And I didn't know what to say, so with each call I got maybe a little less babbling than I was when I began. But the emotion, the amount of sorrow, just the utter pain that we were feeling toward the loss of our colleagues. And many of our friends were up there. You know, I lost 12 friends in addition to my 3 colleagues, and I attended 16 memorial services over the course of that month. And the organization, the Waters organization, they lost 15 of their employees at the memorial service, and I was very touched by this. 15 people that died at the service, there was a family member who lit a candle for each of their children who died. They asked me to light the 16th candle that represented all the other people that perished in the event. So that hit me like a ton of bricks. I was both honored and incredibly saddened to be asked and chosen to light a candle on behalf of so many of our brothers, sisters, industry colleagues who died in that event. So it really had a big impact, not only on me, but certainly on everybody. But I was just maybe just blessed. I eventually got in touch with my family. My wife called Bloomberg. She was freaked out. She thought I was dead. My brothers were calling in. Everyone was calling their friends, checking in to make sure where everybody was. So let me stop here. Is this what you were looking for?
Yeah. Before the attacks on the World Trade Centers, did you feel safe in the United States?
Yes.
Um,
I traveled, just to put in context, Liam, I traveled more than 50% of my time around the world for my organization. I never, ever, I always felt safe and secure.
Let's see. A terror attack such as this changed many lives that day. Can you reflect on the changes that it made on you?
On me personally, she certainly. I was always a pretty active, physically fit guy. I was a marathoner in my 20s, and it was something I was contemplating doing, and I always found excuses not to do it. I always thought about climbing mountains, something I was inside of me, dying to get out, but I always found excuses. I didn't have the time. In my 20s, I didn't have the money. In my 30s, I didn't have the time, and I was now 41 years old when that happened. So that event caused me to rethink this thing that I've been doing. My whole life was really spent in the service of my family, in the service of my career, but I used this as an opportunity to hold out a little bit for myself for something that I've always wanted to do but never did. So I said, I'm going to use this event to do this thing. And to summarize this, exactly 1 year later, on the anniversary of 9/11, so on September 11th, 2002, I stood on the summit of Mount Rainier in the Cascade Mountains in honor of my 3 colleagues that I lost. What I didn't know, it gave birth to an incredible other number of mountain expeditions where this event caused me to, as a catalyst, to go do that thing I dreamed about but never did. From that mountain climb, a year later I was in Mount Kilimanjaro. I then climbed the Matterhorn in Switzerland. I then climbed in the Andes in Alaska. And I have become, at first I climbed a mountain, but I'd like to think that I've become a mountaineer. And while I may have become a mountaineer if that event never occurred, the reality is 9/11 transformed people in many ways. Maybe the world is meant to have these tragic events and something good comes out of something bad. I'll never know, but I know it had a personal mark on me, and I climbed these mountains in the spirit of my friends and my loved ones and the people that we've lost in our lives. And as you know, I've taken your brother. Your brother's a great athlete, and he has climbed a couple mountains with me. And I bring my students up on those mountains, and I want them to understand what life is like, to be uncomfortable, to push beyond what you think your limits are. And as an executive coach and a motivational speaker now, I use mountaineering as a narrative into my teaching approach, into my speeches, and that had a very big impact on who I am as an individual. And maybe 9/11 was that pivot that I needed in order to become who I am today. Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you. You answered that. In the year since the attack in the year since the attack, have you established any rituals to commemorate those lost? Is that would you say the mountain climbing, maybe?
Yeah, I think mountain climbing is incredibly reflective. It's not a religion. I don't think that would be a fair way to put it, but it's a very philosophical and reflective time where you get a lot of space because you're busy climbing mountains in a very quiet environment. There are no cell phones, televisions, you can't watch Netflix. It's just you, your body, your mind, your heart, and it gives you a lot of time to think about things. And I use that. I'm a runner too, so when I run, it's my time, but I think the mountaineer, because you're out in the wilderness, there's no one can talk to you beyond just the mountaineers themselves. That is my reflection time. To just thank the Lord, whoever's out there, how blessed I am for the life that I live, but also in the spirit of many others that are no longer with us, including my parents. It's time for that reflection. I think is an important thing. It became important to me, and it became an important part of my life.
Tell about your marathon.
The next question is: are you pleased with the memorial that was created after the attacks?
I think it's really cool, and I take a lot of people, including your brother, mom. I've taken many people there. I think it's a splendid, beautiful memorial with the names engraved. It has water, that very sand water feel. It's simple, yet it's elegant. It's big, yet it's intimate. I think they did a wonderful job. I love being down there. It makes me feel good about it that we have done. I don't know what more we could have done to honor their spirit, but I like what they did.
What was the effect on the city of New York versus do you think the nation had the effect on the nation rather than the city?
I think on the nation, with needs, I think America's really great when there are tragic events or there's support. And I think when we reflect on at that event, firemen, support services from all over the country came in, letters of sympathy, calls of sympathy. Americans are an incredibly generous lot. They're also quite sympathetic in times of tragedy. So while New York definitely was changed, people were so quiet. It was a hush for days. I think we were just grateful for the outpouring of sympathy, support, prayers, etc. It was something to behold. It made you feel good that there were people out there that you didn't even know that cared enough to reach out to help to ease the pain.
What was it like the day after, in the city, I guess?
It was, Liam, you could hear a pin drop. Normally when you go into New York in the morning, thousands of people come in, thousands live there, everybody's hustling and talking and blah, blah. It was like something I'd never seen before. People were slower walking. Instead of all this bundle of energy, there was a calmness, a stillness. When you walked into an elevator, normally the default mode in New York is people are talking, they're on their phones, they're eating, they're drinking. It was a very different thing. People were greeting each other. That's unusual. People were just acknowledging with the look and the body language. People walking on the streets were more patient. They weren't so quick to let me run across the street as fast as I can. There was definitely, not just the next day, but I would say it carried over for a few months, a somber, quiet, chilled, oh my God, look how lucky we are to be alive. Shouldn't we thank people for this? Because everyone in New York, invariably, you knew somebody who knew somebody, you were witness to these things falling with the smoke, but you could not see this. So everyone participated or contributed to this event. And the next day, we were the ones left standing. How are we so fortunate that we were not caught up in that? And it definitely came through on the way people interacted with each other. And it changed behaviors for a while until things got back to normal and it was back to the old default. But I'd never seen New York in that kind of quiet, reflective mode.
And then almost 16 years later, from the attacks, how do you feel about the new policies trying to be implemented on immigration, restriction from people of Muslim countries?
I'll give you my personal opinion. I don't like it. I think it's terrible. I think most of the events and the acts that occur here occur from people that are already here. They don't seem to be flying in to blow us up. It's a shame. We're a nation that's always been very open-minded and caring. My parents are immigrants. My friends' parents are immigrants. My parents came to America. It changed my life. And now I think about the number of people who's about to have their lives changed. So rather than waxing on politically, I understand the protections. I get it. We need to protect ourselves. We need to protect our borders. I'm all for that. Not crazy about the ban. I agree with it, but it's not our call. It's somebody else's. I just wish this world where everybody can go everywhere. And my son is getting married in Turkey, and he lives in Turkey. His bride is Turkish. We are all heading there in August. She was rejected for a visa before she got married to my son. This beautiful, innocent 25-year-old Turkish woman tried 3 different times to come to America with her boyfriend to come to my home with my wife and my family, and she was rejected 3 times. This is not someone who's coming to threaten us. She was just coming home with her fiance, and so we're heading to Turkey in August for the wedding. But it was just a sad tale for me when she got rejected 3 times in a row. That, oh my God, that was a sad day for us, that we weren't able to see her because these policies were keeping them out. So, nonetheless, I think the main thing, Liam, we this is the hand we're dealt, and we just have to react to it as best we can.
The rest of the day, how did it go down for you? After, I guess the TV's turned off, maybe, and you stopped watching what was happening.
On 9/11.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't even watch the TV. I couldn't bear. I was at Bloomberg, and basically what was the war room, and I stayed there till around 1 o'clock. My family was freaked out because they thought I was dead. Once the phones came back up, I finally got back to them. I told them I was okay. They heard my voice. My kids had already been home. My kids were in elementary school at the time. When the attacks occurred, most of the New York area elementary schools were shut down and they sent people home. Because there are so many in the New York area in the financial world, it was pretty safe to assume that somebody probably in every school within a 50-mile radius knew somebody in the World Trade Center. So the children were sent home. I left. There was trouble on the trains. I live in the suburbs of New York, and I do take a commuter train out. It was hard. The whole train, when the attacks occurred, all transportation stopped because nobody knew what to do. Nobody knew what else was going to happen. So there was no way to leave this island that we work on. It's an island surrounded by water. You either go through a tunnel, a bridge, or a train. There's no other way out. So all of that was shut down for several hours. So I hung out in the office, basically walking around, and most people thought I was dead. So to let them know I wasn't, and it's a pretty big company, I walked all over just making myself visible. So that took a couple of hours to get through. There were a lot of hugs, handshakes, high fives. Oh my God, you okay? It's good to see you. We thought you were gone. That took a couple hours to get through. By the time that was done, I then got about a 2:30, 3 o'clock train. The trains finally came back up in the afternoon. I made it home by 4 o'clock. I went home. I hugged my kids and my family, my wife, everybody. Everybody was in the mode, once the phones came back up, basically checking in on everyone you know. Mm-hmm. Where were you? Are you okay? Yes. Great. Hang up. Call your next friend. Where were you? Are you okay? Yes. Bam. That went on for a couple of days.
So you said to get in touch with people, you couldn't really speak over the phone because they were down. So so you just kind of went around talking to people in the office, and then your family. Did you just wait until you got home to see them?
Well, the phones finally came back up at about 1 o'clock. So the first phone call I made was to my family. Mm-hmm. The second, third, and fourth phone call I made was to the parents of my 3 colleagues who died. So there were 4 phone calls I had to make. I then called my brothers. They were also I had to make, but my mom, my brothers. So mm-hmm. there was a list of there was a hierarchy of who I needed to get in touch with. Several of my friends were all calling in to me. I eventually called to them. So to the extent that you could just get your small circle, start calling in, making sure where everybody was, everyone did that. And once I felt that all of those necessary calls were made, emails finally came back up. I sent a big blast. Hey guys, it's Chuck, I'm good. Because most people who knew me knew I was going to be up there that day. So many assumed I was probably in the building. Some didn't know, but this way it cast away any doubt. So the main thing, Liam, the message was the communication mechanisms finally came back up. The infrastructure finally came back up. It was time to rock on it. just get in touch with your friends and your families and let everybody know. Find out what we were doing was basically accounting for everybody.
Do you think that what George Bush did after the attacks was like made it better or worse?
Yeah, I wish I had an opinion on that. I think he did all he could. This was an unprecedented time that we were under attack, and this was a declaration of war. How we went about war with Afghanistan, that seemed pretty clear. We had to, as George Bush said, we had to smoke out the enemy. Got that. It's unfortunate that we were dragged into another war in Iraq. I'm not here to wax on politically or give you my personal philosophy. However, we were attacked by violent, insane people that used any methods to kill us. And when that happens, we have to be able to fight back. And that's what he did. So I probably would have done the same thing. If somebody's going to threaten me or my family, I'm going to fight it back.
And those are all the questions I have. Thank you for doing this with me again. I appreciate it.
My pleasure and my honor. Thank you for asking me. I'm delighted to this was a tough time, and I hope that anybody who is watching this or hearing this, I hope they can take a little bit of comfort in recognizing there are a lot of things that happen in our lives that we didn't expect and that we can't control. So I think we'll really measure our lives on how we adapt to those changes, how well we do, and whenever there's a crisis, that's really when you get to measure one's character, how they react in times of distress. And I think we learned, all of us that lived through it, we hope we never have it